All right, welcome to another episode of the 100% Wild Podcast. I'm Mark Kenyon of Wired to Hunt. With me is Matt Drury of Drury Outdoors, and again with us is our special guest, Larry Woodward. How you guys doing?
Absolutely. We're doing good. I got the
Doing
man, the
great.
myth, and the legend right here in the studio, and I feel pretty lucky
Are
today.
you, well, and I am 100% wild. I'll guarantee you that.
Awesome.
I
That's
guarantee you
I
that.
got plenty of
That joke
stories
never
about
gets
this guy. So, we've known each other a long time. Just a quick introduction. Larry has been in the outdoor industry 21 years,
Yeah.
two television
Television,
shows,
yeah.
and on television.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the name of the shows and where they air at?
Outdoors in the Heartland, you can see every week on Fox Sports Midwest at 8:30. Been there 21
Yep.
years, and we're also been on the Outdoor Channel since the Outdoor Channel was the Outdoor Channel.
Yeah.
When you could only get it on one of them big, what do you call it? A satellite dish?
Yeah, those big
Arkansas
dishes.
State Flour.
Yeah, I like that.
No offense to you guys down in Arkansas, it's just a joke. But anyway, they was just, you could only get it
Yeah.
way wet back when it started.
Yeah.
You had to go to somebody's house and turn that thing.
Yeah.
Whoa! Look
got
at
it, we
hunting
got it.
fishing on there, But yeah, we've been in the business 21 years in TV and done radio for years before that in the St. Louis market and guided and did speaking engagements and things. Just kind of like Mark and Terry
Yep.
started out, and just gradually worked up the ladder, man. I want to thank God that I've had the life that I've had and done what I've done for so long, and hope I can get another 21 out of it.
We're all very lucky to be able to make a living in the outdoor industry. So
If I could get Jenny Craig and like a big old folks home place to be a sponsor to watch old guys hunt,
Yeah, you'd be set.
maybe we can keep her going for a while.
maybe we could set that up. I don't know.
Yeah, Geritol hour.
There you go. You know what
Hey,
though?
great sponsor.
I think Mark and Terry are in the same boat.
Yeah, Geritol, Ensure, Viagra.
We had this guy here. We've had so many fun times out. We've had a lot, some of the same sponsors throughout the year. So when we go to the ATA show and the SHOT Show, there's a lot of times throughout the years where we have dinner engagements together, where
Yeah.
there might be 10, 15, 20 people in a little private room that we're all having dinner. And by the end of the night, I can promise you, every time we're going to be all huddled up, hurtled around this guy right here. He's going to be telling some funny story about a trip he had to Africa or somewhere in the mountains, or some bear coming to touch his leg, or maybe it was at a Hooters restaurant. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's story after story after story with this guy.
You can tell them the Hooters when it's all right.
Man, one time we're at the ATA show and we were at a it was
Dueling
after
piano
hours.
place.
Yeah, dueling piano place. It was after hours. The shows had closed, and a lot of industry people have all gathered around. We all know each other. We're all friends, and Larry comes out and he's got a Hooters
Extra small.
extra small top on. It was classic, man. I mean, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. He's the life of the party every
And
time.
every time I see Cameron Haynes somewhere, he's like, "Hey, man, I remember you in that Hooters shirt down there on the stage down there. I think it was Indianapolis."
Yep, Indy.
Oh
Yeah.
well, like I said, I'm wild. So.
Man, that's what we love about him.
Life's
So-
too short not to have fun and laugh is my motto. So
I love it. We
Yeah.
always come out of those dinners, faces hurting from laughing so much. So, anyways, I think you got a question of the day for us, right?
We do, and I think, Larry, you're a good guy to talk about this one because I think you're just as deer crazy as me and Matt. So,
Oh,
Matt, do you want
yeah,
to
that's
kick
for
off
sure.
that question of the day, and then we'll try to tackle it?
Absolutely. The question of the day is brought to you by Analogics Outdoors. Protect your herd with the power of science.
This is Jonathan Ingram from Cincinnati, Ohio. I just got permission to hunt a long and fairly narrow 140-acre parcel in Kentucky. The parcel is hourglass shaped with steep ridges on either side, leading to between 100 and 200 yards of mature hardwoods with unplanted meadow in the middle of the hourglass shape. Just at the hourglass pinch point is a cabin with about 60 timbered yards on either side before the ridges start to steeply climb. So the cabin is right smack in the middle of the major deer thoroughfare pinch point, connecting a few promising saddles. The landowner and his family are not hunters. They use the property as a camping and fishing property, and they have zero interest in adjusting their use to create optimal fall hunting conditions, which I understand. The problem is, it is the fall when they really start visiting the cabin frequently, once the weather starts to cool down. My question is, can I expect this type of recreational activity to pressure deer the same way that direct hunting pressure might? The property has never been hunted, at least legally, and I am hopeful that the deer in the area view the place as a sanctuary. But I don't want to burn too much time there if all those fall cabin beer bashes will blow out any chance at a good buck. Thanks so much for the podcast. I'm fairly new to bow hunting and am lapping up the content you are putting out there. Keep it up.
I love this question.
Yeah.
I love this. This is probably most realistic to what the majority of people are dealing with, right, Larry?
A lot. And
Yeah.
a lot of guys I talk to are hunting on smaller than 140 acres. And the first thing I would tell them, I'd put a salt lick just outside the cabin and start pouring beer on it. So it becomes a normal smell around there. And
The beer bash. I love that he named it the annual beer bash.
yes. Well, he's got a variety of problems there. First thing I do is say, hey, man, if you can find somewhere else to hunt, that'd probably be the first thing I do, just looking at that. But I'm just joking. But we'll try and tell you what we do there. You know, not seeing a map of that, it sounds like he's talking about where the pinch point is, and I bet there's little valleys coming off those steep hills, and that's a natural place for the animals coming over those ridges and stuff to come through there, which could be great.
The pinch point's the positive part of this whole thing. When I was listening to that, I thought, okay, here's the positive, glass half full type story here.
And irregular shape within a field is usually a place that animals will gravitate to. And the problem is a cabin sitting right there.
Yeah.
But it could be a problem and maybe not, just depending on when and how much pressure they're putting there. Now, if they use that enough, as we all know, you can be around in urban areas where deer live in people's yards and things. If the people are there enough and they're not running around up in the woods, them deer could lay right there and watch some people come down there and do their thing.
Yeah.
It's when them people step away from there and go up in there. I'd almost bet that little meadow right there, if it's in the part of the Kentucky that's so heavily deforested, those little meadows and things are hard to find.
Yeah.
That there could be a lot of deer coming to feed them. They probably see them. It's probably one of the reasons he's wanting to hunt there. You know, depending on what time of the year, these people don't hunt. So maybe by the time the good hunting comes, they've quit coming to the cabin.
Like
Things
the
have
rut.
quieted down. The first thing that jumped out at me here right now with him describing this, I'd get down there right now and plant a food plot within close proximity of that cabin and get that planted for later this year, especially if he's got cameras out and knows he's got some decent deer in that area.
Yeah.
Get that started now. Right now's the time this stuff should be getting planted. And in Kentucky, you got plenty of time to get that germinated and get that going. Because, you know, just like when a team shows up and you're in a church softball league and they divvy up the teams and you're there to play with what you got, it's kind of what he's got.
Yep, that's
I would
right.
turn that cabin into my blind.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you plant a food plot around that, if those people would let you do that somewhere, I don't know if the guy's bow hunting, I don't know if he's gun hunting, or both. If it's a two-story cabin, one story, they're used to that being there.
Yeah.
And when there's no signs of being somebody around there, if you've got something planted around there for them, they'll come. They'll
come out.
Sneak down in there, open that window, sit back. Man, I've done stuff like I've hunted out of old barns and dilapidated things, hog houses before. They become a natural thing there that you could utilize.
Yeah, Mark's got his Reconyx. We just put this up on social media. He's got a Reconyx camera inside this old barn on his place, and because he had seen inside the barn, like it looked like there had been sign in there, and sure enough, he's got buck after buck doe, everything just coming through that like it's no big deal. They walk through there and just pass on by. So I mean, they acclimate themselves to their surroundings. Right?
I shot a deer one time under a bridge.
Wow.
They were coming to a place, and there was like some roads and stuff, and it just everything fell the right way and some cliffs, and there's just sandy little, almost dry creek run through there, and them deer would come, and it was a pinch point funnel.
Yeah.
And they'd go right under that bridge, walk right on by. I'd stand right as they come under the bridge. Here they come, and it was down in West Texas. And
Wow.
Absolutely, used the pinch point under a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's using your surroundings to the best of your ability, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, something this guy could do here, when you got to deal with what you got there, if he's got a tree stand around there somewhere, I'd go down there right now and I'd build me a dummy. I'd put a human dummy up in a tree stand. It sits there at the edge of that plot all the time. And this works.
Mark and Dad have done this, believe it or not, years ago.
And put orange on it.
Yeah?
Because then your trespassers that are looking down,
They see something.
They see a dang guy in orange sitting there. You can do that even in gun season, man. If you got a place you ain't going to get to, put your mannequin up there with your orange on and a BB gun or something, you know.
That's a good
But
idea.
anyway, those deer get used to seeing that black lump in that tree and stuff there, and then one day you replace it with yourself. Those are just little tricks, man, that can work to your advantage if you utilize and play them games, especially in a little thing like this. You know, he talks about this being 140 acres. It's long and skinny. Your hunting's only going to be as good as the surrounding properties around there. Me and you do not know what is surrounded. Is it just great big ridges and timbers or any other acreages around there people are managing for deer, whatever? But if this is the only place I got to hunt, I would go down there. I would ask this landowner what I got to do to maybe, plant some of your meadow and things that will help me later in the season.
So it's just about making the property better, making it something that the deer are going to gravitate towards.
And
right?
also, this pinch point, he says, is where the deer are crossing there anyway. I can guarantee you, with that cabin sitting there, and even if the people are there, that during the rut, if that's a natural crossing area, if that's a place where the deer are going to go from here to there and coming through there when they're doing the rut thing, I'd still be sitting it with high anticipation, because how many times you ever been sitting at your old house or something, you look out in bucks or trailing does right in the yard or something?
Yep.
I during the peak of the rut, I'd still sit there even if the people were in the cabin having breakfast.
Yeah. It's not going to change what deer are doing.
They're still going to come through there,
Yeah.
especially if a hot doe busts out across there. It could still be happening. So, but all in all, this sounds like a pretty hard proposal here.
Yeah.
To be honest with the guy, he might kill Boone and Crockett there too.
Yeah.
I've seen funnier things happen.
Yeah.
And especially with big deer, unpredictable. If he has big deer there. And
That's the biggest thing. I think that's the caveat to any conversation. You're only as good as your hunting spot, right?
Here's what I want to say to people, and I'll compare this to like me to you guys. You guys been blessed, and your dad and Terry have some sizable acreage that they heavily manage for deer. I don't personally have that. I hunt with some outfitters. I do most of my own hunting, and even the places I get permission to go, I try and get in there and plant food plots for myself where I put them and stuff. But I don't most of the time have the luxury of having 5 and 6 year old bucks in multiples plethora. And I shoot some 3.5 year old deer because that's all I got. And it's all I'm ever going to have. And for all you guys out there that you see the Drurys and different people and us sometimes shoot some giant free ranging deer, you can only kill them if they live there. And hunting is supposed to be fun for everybody. There's some of us that would like to shoot bigger bucks and it makes better TV. But for the masses of people, a 125-inch deer
is a trophy, and it
is a great deer. That makes the Pope and Young record book. I hear a lot of people these days come up to me and are like, 125, 130. I'm like, man,
kind
that
of
could be a great
apologetic.
deer to somebody. Absolutely. Oh, I wish I hadn't shot him another year. Well, you made that decision. And I would never hold it against anybody to shoot whatever they want if it's on their property and whoever told you not to. Now,
Mark always says that the spirit moves you, right?
But if you're hunting a property like, say, Mark Drury's, and you're one of his guests, and his rules are this, you know that going in. And if your guy wants to come up and shoot a button buck, well, Mark probably ain't going to invite you.
You won't get it. You won't get that invite back.
But to the other guys out there that they say, well, it ain't like them guys. They got their own farm and they sit in their shooting house. Excuse me. Sit in their shooting house.
Hopefully they don't do the other thing.
Don't do that in there, because then your cameraman or your friends won't be. So sit in your shooting. There's too many S's. But here's the deal, guys. If you were a person that can own your own ground and manicure it, you would. So don't begrudge the people that have been blessed in their life and worked hard that they own something and can manage and have bigger bucks. They're going to shoot them because you want to watch them.
Well, they didn't start out that way either. I mean,
But for you guys, where you hunt, here's what I think you should do. Yes, every now and then a giant buck gets killed on public property or in an area where nobody thought one of those would come from. Most of the biggest deer in America every year are killed by novice hunters. It's not people that is like after them. It's like people that never seen this deer before. It came by, the guy was over there behind the tree, going to the bathroom, having a smoke, and he looked up and here this deer was.
And they always say, how hard can it be?
and those things happen. And on the big mega bucks, so many times that's who they're killed by. Somebody never expecting it, never was happy with shooting any deer. And it's the guys that's really hard and trying to get them that never do. But I want to tell the viewers out there, hunt what you have expectations to hunt. If you're hunting a place that you've never seen a deer over 130 and you can't find him on your trail camera, he's not there. Now, I'm not saying that at any time a deer from another area gets pressured, pushed, drawn, just all of a sudden shows up.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen a deer before, and we got cameras out all fall and stuff that we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
That he came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Nobody just drove up there in a truck and kicked him out.
Yeah.
So it can happen. At any time, the magic of hunting can happen to anybody. But if you do your surveillance on your properties and things, whether you use Reconnex, Cuddy-back cameras, or whoever, you can figure out, almost get to know all the deer, the local deer you have on a property. And if you're a person who wants to hunt deer for fun, shoot whatever deer you want, or pick out the biggest buck that you want to shoot and do the best you can on what you have to work with.
Yeah, or the biggest doe if you're wanting the meat or whatever.
Absolutely, and be happy with it.
One of the things that Mark, to your point on the cameras, the first thing that he always says when somebody says, well, I got this new property, what should I do? He always says the exact same thing. I'd get as many cameras as I possibly could on that property, and I would take some surveillance of the area and get the MRI, the most recent information,
Absolutely.
and make a plan from there. Because, I mean, by and large, with the technology today, you're going to find what you got on that property if you have enough cameras out. You know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially if you get out earlier in the year, you'll get pictures of bucks to know that at least they've lived their part of the year.
Yeah.
They might disappear on you. You find them back later. But usually early in the year, you can get a real good read on everything that's in your area.
Yeah.
The bucks change, you know, after they shed their velvet. And a lot of times a buck will just stand there in front of a camera and pose like crazy in velvet.
You'll never see
and then
it again.
afterwards, you know, I've seen them where they come walking up. They know that camera's there, and they'll walk around. They're in the area still, but they won't walk in front of it no more.
Yeah, think about that. I mean, say this guy was 140 acres. Mark, what was this?
Yeah, 140.
He's got 140 acres. You could have all the cameras you want out, but say he just skirted the camera and walked behind it instead of in front of it. I mean, there is a little bit of luck. You got to be smart in where you're putting your cameras out. You got to, you know, where it's legal in the summertime, especially if you can put any attractants out, corn out, supplement, any of that type
Absolutely.
of stuff. That's going to be your number one key to find out what you got there in the
Absolutely.
summertime. To your point, before the season, before they shed their velvet, and then throughout the season, you know, changing to scrape trees when known areas, pinch points, funnels, known areas that you know, even though you don't have an attractant out, that they're gonna be passing through there. That's the key.
Like these days, you can't even put salt or mineral of any kind in the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
And those type things help dramatically in getting pictures of deer. So since you cannot do anything like that in the state of Illinois anymore, the next best thing is a water hole or a scrape. Once you see the first scrape show up in September, I've even seen them the last few days of August.
I was just at the lease and I had a gigantic scrape on this known area that they walk through, and I said to Aaron, I was like, did you see that? He's like, that's not scrape. And we stopped and we went back. I'm like, dude, that, you know, there's paw marks all over. I'm like, that's a scrape. He thought it was like an anthill or something at first. It was gigantic. That was, you know, August 21st. I couldn't believe it.
You can start seeing them, and you know their antlers are starting to harden up, and they're starting to field a little bit. And normally that'll happen under a perennial scrape area where they're always going to do it. There's still scent left on the branch over and in the ground from the years before, and that's the thing about it. One of the scrapes like that doesn't belong to one deer.
Yeah, it's community.
Every deer in the area comes by is going to stop in and see it. So you get a camera on a scrape, and here's the thing: don't put it. Here's the scrape, and here's these licking bands tree. Put it right here. You know, get it away and get it as high as you can out of a deer's view and angled down and get the picture.
Interesting. I've never
the
seen
deer are
that.
getting more smarter, I believe, about cameras.
Yeah.
And even if you use rubber gloves and stuff, you leave some scent on them, and they see it's a different. How many times you got a camera out and you got deer's nose up there, you know, smelling it, looking at it. Even if you got it scent free, they notice it's something different. But your pictures, especially on the smart deer, if you can get it up 7-8 feet, sometimes I take like a tree stand stick.
Yeah.
I come down and I strap it around the tree so I can get up just like about as high as those antlers. And I put the thing up, angling down, and they just keep coming in. They don't even pay any attention to it up that high.
Side effect: you can catch trespassers that way.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. You can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes those are better to bag than deer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to make one point, kind of going back to the original question, and kind of put a silver lining on his situation here a little bit, because we kind of talked about how, this can be rough. You know, this is kind of tough. You've got this cabin right there in a good spot in the property. But a lot of people, myself included, who hunts, almost all on just a by permission basis. A lot of us hunt properties and we have to share them with other random people that we don't even hunt with, just other people that have permission. And that situation where you have a couple other hunters on a property, I personally think is a lot more difficult to deal with than a situation like this where you have a property that hasn't been hunted before and you do have people on it, but they're not hunting. I think there's a really big difference, and I really believe that deer can tell the difference between regular human activity and hunting activity. And so I think his situation isn't that bad because this is a property that no one else is hunting. So if he just starts taking advantage of how the deer will react to the regular cabin behavior,
Yeah.
I think he can put himself in a good position. I mean, take for example, they get used to people driving around maybe the
Yeah.
edges of the field in their truck maybe.
Yeah.
So use that to his advantage. Use a truck to check his trail cameras or to have someone drop him off at or something because they're used to that kind of activity. I think there's a lot of ways you can do that. I've got a buddy who
Absolutely.
knew that there's this spot like 30 yards behind a house, and the people never go to this section of the house. They always stay up in the front and the side yard, but they never go right behind. 30 yards back, there's a little ditch. And because the deer are used to regular activity at the front of the house but not the back, they're always back there. So he hunts 30 yards behind this person's deck, and he's killed several mature bucks in Michigan where there's
Yeah.
tons of hunting pressure. And he's still able to do it while watching people watch TV 35 yards away. So you can definitely do it if you learn to take advantage of it, figure out how the deer react, and just adjust.
One of the things that I was wondering, and he doesn't say, or maybe he did and I missed it, are they riding their four-wheelers through the property? Or are they just staying to like the cabin area? That's because I mean that I do think that would make a big difference. I mean if they're at all tipping into the timber, that's no different if they're on a four-wheeler and or they're even if they're walking around through there. That's no different than hunting pressure. I
Right,
mean, even
right.
if the deer are used to it, they're not going to tolerate that. That's the one thing Mark and Dad talk about all the time, that they don't tolerate that kind of intrusion into their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if they're sticking to the field edges, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Deer just stay in the cover and kind of look down and watch them. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're driving, if they pass through the timber and all that stuff, I mean that's detrimental to what this guy is ultimately trying to do, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing you ought to think about on that is there's so many things that come into play. We could talk about this, till dark today. Is that the pressure from other people around that? How heavy is that?
Yeah.
And that if he was able, in my opinion, to utilize hunting close to that cabin, where
That's-
that they're used to,
for sure.
and he's talked about making that a sanctuary. Well, if he could just leave that alone, plant some stuff out, view deer and things, whether he's bow hunting or gun hunting, he could make that work. And as the year goes on, it could even get better with being more pressure all around him and stuff.
Yeah.
But if I was him, I'd get something planted. I'd stay out of his woods, especially on those steep hillsides like that or down in that bottom.
Yeah.
Man, those pooling winds and you can, look at your phone, says you got a south
Yeah.
wind today. It don't mean nothing because
it's
that
swirling.
wind flows like water wherever
Yeah.
it's pushed.
That's
You
right.
can look at air currents in terrain like that, just like a creek that's coming down. It's going to hit this bank, it bounces back and comes this way, and
Yeah.
it can play a lot of tricks on you. If I was him, I'd go get go to a fireworks stand, get some of them smoke bombs. I'd go out there right now on whatever prevailing wind is,
see which
and
way
go out
it
and
goes.
light the thing off and just watch it go, and it'll hit that hill, go around, and you can get a real good idea.
Yeah.
And do it way before the season.
Yeah.
Get an idea of how the currents flow down in those low spots. You see all your sign in the valleys and stuff like that, but they're tough to get down in there
Yeah.
and hunt those because of that. That's why I like tops of hills and things at any time, especially for morning sets, because once that thermal start up, man, you can get away with murder. you know?
Yeah. And if he's hunting in the afternoons, going into the evening when a lot of deer movement happens, during the season, if he's only got these hillsides. Now, Mark, was it that the meadow was the pinch point was at the bottom of the two hillsides, or was it at the top and it dropped off on the two sides?
They're down in the bottom, and the ridges rise up on either side.
Yeah, so his evening hunts, I mean, he's more or less stuck to trying to, hopefully, if you plant that food plot, he's stuck to hunting down in the bottom, because if he's hunting up top, his thermals are being dropped down as the temperature of the earth cools. It's just pulling those thermals down into that valley.
Another reason to have food down there and try and utilize it and get in his lowest point and get somewhere where the prevailing wind, however it works, and figure out beforehand, if it's from this direction, I know that it's going to go this way, brush in a blind,
Yeah.
put up tree stands, hunt kind of high to help that, and be as scent-free as possible.
Yeah.
Very much pay a lot of attention to your scent control,
Yeah.
from showering up, your care of your clothes, wearing hunt-inhibiting products and
Yep.
sprays. They all come into play.
And it's not an end-all, be-all, but they're all little bitty advantages that might give you an extra 3 seconds when the deer's in front of you.
Exactly. Exactly. And they will give
All
you
those
an
little
edge
things
in a
add
lot
up.
of cases, especially when you're already hampered by all these things.
Yeah.
You know, you think about a guy that works and he's got some time to hunt, don't have it all screwed before you even get there.
Yeah.
Put every advantage into
Yeah.
your favor as you can when dealing with the situation he's got right here.
That's a great point. It's a great point
Yeah.
to finish on.
I agree. And I think if I had to sum up everything we've talked about to answer the very core of his question, the core of his question was, am I going to be wasting my time hunting here?
Never.
I'd say no.
No.
I think, based on everything we said here, there are ways to take advantage of it. There are ways to make the best of the situation. So best of luck. And hopefully we'll hear a successful hunting story here soon from him, because we're getting just weeks away from most of us starting to hunt.
Yeah, I'd sure like if you guys hear from this man and hear how it turns out for him.
One last tip, though. This is something that we do on our lease. So on the weekends, more people are out. More people are out and about. And we got a neighbor on our lease that just shoots a pistol all day long on the weekends, just having fun. If you go on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Tuesday when they're not going to go to the cabin, that's also a pretty good chance to see something that you would not see on the weekend. So that's a tip. I know work and there's a lot of things that go into that, but I'd say that's one last tip to part with that might actually help you tremendously.
And beg that guy to let you plant some food there.
Yeah.
Because, put it to them this way, they'll see more wildlife because of
Yeah.
it. If they don't hunt, they probably like seeing things. They like the outdoor experience, obviously.
Yeah.
They would benefit from it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one last thing to your point, Matt, mornings too.
Yeah.
Because the cabin residents probably aren't waking up at the crack of
Might
dawn
be
and playing
hungover
around in the
because of
woods.
that beer bash. They're
Well,
hungover,
Hopefully they're sleeping until 1 o'clock in
Give
the
them,
afternoon recovering.
buy them some extra beer and a little liquor to keep them in bed longer. That way they don't get up till noon. You got it all to yourself.
That's right. That's the best tip yet.
Yeah.
That should be
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
where we end this thing up. So
Give them an Ambien,
I'd
too.
say thank you, Larry, for joining us. This
Hey,
was
man,
great.
thanks
We
for
appreciate
asking
it.
me. I appreciate it. I've had a blast.
Absolutely.
And for everyone out there, if you have a question you'd like to send in for us to answer on a future episode, go to wiredtohunt.com/100%wild, and you can submit your own voice question for myself, Matt, Larry, Mark, Drury, whoever might be with us next time. We'll give it a shot. So thanks, everyone. And Matt, any updates from you?
Absolutely. If you're going to check anything out from Drury Outdoors, of course, we're on the Outdoor Channel, Pursuit Network. You can see us just about any day of the week. But you can always catch us at any time of the day on social media. So check us out at DruryOutdoors.com or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And, of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Drury Outdoors. And we have DOD TV. We have the Cutting Room Floor from 13. We have all kinds of cool stuff going to be happening live on Facebook this fall. So be sure to like us over there. And, Larry, do you have anything to part
Hey,
with?
man, go to scentblockermostwanted.com, outdoorsintheheartland.com, or Facebook. And believe it or not, I started twitting.
I
Is that
saw
what you
that.
call it?
I'm following you.
I put on like, all right, let's twit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to do a little twitting and
Please follow him. It's always
and,
interesting.
Twit with me if you would. And hey, look at this dude. You got him on here just for eye candy or something?
Yeah,
look at
absolutely.
Look at the teeth on that
He's
guy.
a stud.
He's got a pretty mouth. Look at him.
Mark Kenyon is the best of
Oh,
the
you're
best.
making me blush, Larry.
All right, that's all I
right,
got,
guys.
buddy.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Peace. Thanks, Larry.
You bet, man. Thank you.
Yep.